Because I think the first thing I saw was legitimately porn. Like full on. I'm gonna do the thing. Hold on. So like, it was full on like childhood furry crushes do it? Oh no. Carmelita Fox? Okay, Carmelita Fox was that for everyone, but Sly Cooper though. Oh my god, we gotta make some sort of list. You guys have to give me some sort of like put together like community list. And then what I need you to do is get images of all those characters so I can turn it into a tier list. Then we can do like, what's the tier for these childhood furry crushes? I guess it's that time. Should we talk about, or at least have me talk about who my furry childhood crushes were? Or I guess the most furry bait characters that sort of made me realize, oh, there's a community for this shit? Huh. Kind of like it, but it's also kind of cringe because this was me in high school. So what got me into the furry fandom? In terms of the most furry baitish characters that exist in media. Because there's a bunch of them. And for everyone, it's going to be different. For everyone, it's not going to be furry bait characters. For some people, it might be Discord. It might also be Angry Birds. We had this conversation before. But for me, it was a bit of a mix of a lot of things. Because, like, every so often, I'd be reminded that furries were a thing. It wasn't that, like, I discovered the furry fandom one day and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. It was more like, ew. Like, why are these people here? And this was me in high school. This is me before doing the furry informational videos. You've all seen that phase. It was pretty toxic and actually really shitty. But I'm digressing. In terms of me sort of learning about the furry fandom, or at least the furry bait characters, which kind of like, I don't know, it's like one of those things where like you have anthropomorphic animals in media, in cartoons, whatever, and furries just cling on to that and are like, this is a part of us. And it's like, that is not how that works, but do as you please. You're making money for charities all over the world. Go for it. So like, whenever an anthropomorphic cartoon character releases, furries cling to it, or fan art and so on and so forth is made from there. And so you have these furry bait characters that a lot of furries make a lot of goddamn art of. Like, just a little too much art of. And then, of course, you know, that art is traced back to that community, and then, you know, people looking for that one character will find that art, and they're like, wait a minute, who the fuck are these people? And that's how people discovered the furry fandom. So, like, when you look through this, and you see that art, you're like, huh. And then either curiosity gets you or absolute disgust gets you. And you go on a cringe fest, and then you look further into it, and then it's like, well, I wish I didn't see that. Or you're like, oh, maybe I want to see more of this. And that's how you join the furry fandom. For me, it was immediately the negative reaction, where I'm like, this is like, what the fuck? In terms of like the go-to furry bait character that I probably discovered, or probably saw that kind of got me into furries, or at least knowing of furries. I'm trying to, hold on, I gotta remember back to like my different phases. Because I started being interested in Pokemon, sort of just the games, didn't look up anything online. Went immediately into Digimon. Didn't really care for Renamon. It was more of like, I love Guilmon, I love Vmon. This cute little purple Digimon, Gumdramon, I think is the name of it. That's pretty cute as well, but I didn't look up art or anything online. So I guess for me, probably the furry bait crush that I had personally was legitimately Guilmon. Because I started getting into, what is it, Digimon Tamers around the time I joined Tumblr, and then I started like seeing art from artists, and then art from artists, and I'm like, what is this? And then I like saw some like character suits of Guilmon and other Digimon, and then I found furries. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then I immediately just thought it was cringe and ignored it. And I'm like, I'm gonna stick in my own little corner of the world, looking at cute Guilmon art, being adorable, and being the best thing to ever exist that I need in my life right now. And this is me as a high schooler, by the way. I think I was like 16 at the time. So that happened, whatever. I think because like it didn't really go anywhere from there. I just kind of stuck with enjoying Digimon, and that was it. And then like, what else? What other phases were there for me? I was hoping that I'd have a better story for how I became a furry. Or what was the most furry bait character, in my opinion. But no, it was literally just, I liked Guillemon. I wanted to see more art of him online. Oops. I saw furries sort of claimed him in some art. In a lot more ways than I want to describe. And then just, that's life. That's just how it is. I'm kind of disappointed that there isn't a more in-depth story to this. Because I thought there was. Oops, yeah, that's pretty much how it is. It's just the oops phase of it. You just accidentally stumble upon something. That's just how it works on the internet. You go diving in, or you just keep clicking, and then eventually you're going to find something you don't like. And I think that's how furries just kind of came to light. Enough people saw that and were like, what is this? And it's like, ew, this is cringe. Or like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. Eventually they're like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then now it's a mainstream thing. God, the fandom really has changed in the span of like 5 years. It's pretty impressive. I mean, look at it now. I do it as a fucking job. I wish I didn't do it as a fucking job, but here we are. I remember now. Okay, so there was a phase before the whole Digimon thing where I did learn that furries did exist. Or at least there was a community behind the whole anthropomorphic art, anthropomorphic media, standing on two legs characters. I remember there was a phase before the Digimon phase that I had on Tumblr. And this is from like an oldish video I think I did. But like, I used to be a big fan of Monsters University. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you for the life of me what was going on in my head when I started high school. Because this was literally after my freshman year going into my sophomore year, where I like joined Tumblr and all that. And I watched Monsters University. I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. And for some reason, I like, as a sort of like weird defense mechanism against the real world and like trying to remain somewhat childish, I clinged on to this one like this one movie, and I'm like, I love this. I love the characters in this, even though it's pretty mediocre at best. It still happened, and it was really fucking weird. But like, I joined these like communities on Tumblr revolving around Monsters University with like art of it and the characters doing like role play and such. And that's how I from there discovered that there was a community behind the whole anthropomorphic media and role playing and creating characters in this universe, because that's what people were doing. They were like creating their own characters and putting them in the Monsters University universe, which I thought was pretty cool at the time and still is pretty cool. But like, I didn't know that there was a huge community behind it that wasn't just related to this one franchise, which, may I remind you, it's a pretty small fucking like community. So when I saw the furry thing, I'm like, holy shit, I don't want to get lost in this. Because I think the first thing I saw was legitimately porn. like full on. I'm gonna do the thing, hold on. So like, it was full on like that's what it was. I know I didn't want to give you guys the image of it, but just like it was immediately like, nope, I don't want anything to do with this community. And that's why I backed out of the whole Monsters University stuff. And then I went into Digimon. I'm like, oh, this is more of what I want. It's pretty chill. And then I was like growing up from there and all that jazz. And it's like, oh, wait. This same community has infected the whole Digimon thing. I'm like, you know what, whatever. I'm just going to ignore them. I'm just ignoring them. As for like Furry Bait character, it was probably Sully. Like the big blue, purple, speckled monster. I mean, he looked pretty cool. His voice actor was also pretty cool. I really liked Sully, okay? I really liked Sully. And then that's how things kind of became a slippery slope from there. I just look at that, I'm like, oh, that explains a lot of the type of guys that I'm into now. I guess I became a furry, or kind of had a lot of like what I'm into because of Sully from Monsters Inc. But in terms of like discovering the fandom for what it was and not being completely just disgusted by it, it's probably Digimon. Probably Digimon and Guillemon. So there's my sort of story behind it. Put into like, what, 40 minutes? That's pretty good. I guess I have it all. I have it figured out now, because I never actually thought about this shit. Furry porn was what made me realize I was a furry. Judge away, beta. I mean, technically that is the same for me, but it was more of the disgust portion of it, and then eventually I was just like either desensitized to the point of like, oh, I kind of like this, or to the point of like, whatever.